Which country was the first in the world to use paper money? China. From which type of plant is real vanilla obtained? Orchid. Who was the first person in the world to invent the telephone? Alexander Graham Bell. Which country built the world's first nuclear power plant? Soviet Union. Which Gothic cathedral in Wiltshire, England, with a 123 meters spire and associated with the Magna Carta, is this place? Salisbury Cathedral. Which country first used fingerprint analysis in a murder case in 1892? Argentina. Which molecule is most commonly found in space? Molecular hydrogen. Which probe was the first to leave the solar system and carry humanity's message into interstellar space? Voyager 1. Which electromagnetic wave, produced by exploding stars and having the highest energy, is this? Gamma ray. What was the peaceful period of the ancient Roman Empire that lasted about 200 years? Pax Romana. In music, what is the Italian term that indicates a tempo meaning fast? Allegro. In which city is the headquarters of the European Union located? Brussels. Which famous German author wrote Damien? Hermann Hesse. Which German composer from the Baroque era composed the Air on the G string? Bach. Which metal is represented by the chemical symbol Fe? Iron. Which country has the largest area in the world? Russia. What color do you get when you mix blue and yellow paint? Green. Which is the largest tropical rainforest in the world? The Amazon rainforest. Which country welcomes the new year first in the world? Kiribati. What fruit is the raw material for chocolate? Cacao, cocoa. How many bones are there in an adult human body in total? (206 bones). How many squares are there on a chessboard in total? 64 squares. Which enzyme is used to make cheese from milk? Rennin. Where on Earth is atmospheric pressure the lowest? The summit of Mount Everest. What is the sweet stock plant grown in the tropics that is the main raw material for sugar? Sugarcane. Which bird achieves the highest dive speed on Earth? Peregrine falcon. Which vast Russian region, known for extreme cold and winters that last up to 9 months, contains the world's largest plains? Siberia. What is the optical illusion in the desert where an oasis appears, caused by the refraction of light? Mirage. Which Indian village, known as the wettest place on earth and regarded as the heart of the monsoon, is this? Cherrapunji. Which ancient Maya site in Mexico's Yucatan is home to the massive pyramid? Chichen Itza. What method do ants use to communicate information to each other? Pheromones. What is the string instrument in an orchestra that covers the lowest register and is typically played standing up? Double bass. What is the sculpture's process of shaping forms with materials such as clay or plaster called? Modeling. Which scientist announced the theory of relativity and received the Nobel Prize in Physics? Albert Einstein. Which of Tchaikovsky's three great ballets tells a story set on Christmas Eve? The Nutcracker. What is the phenomenon called when a substance rapidly reacts with oxygen while burning, producing heat and light? Combustion. What carbohydrate do plants use to store energy produced by photosynthesis? Starch. What is the art technique called that creates images using dots? Pointillism. In plant cells, what is the thick layer outside the cell membrane that helps maintain a rigid shape? Cell wall. In visual art, what do you call the dark tonal areas used to render shadows? Shading. In the novel To Kill a Mockingbird, the story of attorney Atticus Finch confronting racial injustice is set in which country? United States. What is the name of the ancient Egyptian writing system inscribed on papyrus using pictorial symbols? Hieroglyphs. What is the heat absorbed when a liquid turns into a gas called? Heat of vaporization. What is the name of the highest active volcano in the world, located in Africa? Mount Kilimanjaro. Which of Chopin's piano forms was inspired by a traditional Polish dance? Polonaise. What is the central organ of the circulatory system that pumps blood throughout the body? Heart. Which country in northeastern Africa is traversed by the world's longest river, the Nile? Egypt. What is the most famous and standalone chorus from Handel's Oratorio Messiah? Hallelujah Chorus. During the French Revolution, what document proclaimed the fundamental rights of citizens? Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen. In Greek mythology, what is the Roman name of the sea god Poseidon? Neptune. Which planet in the solar system is closest to Earth in size? Venus. What is the process called when a virus enters a host cell and copies its own genetic material? Replication. What do you call the change of state when a solid turns directly into a gas? Sublimation. What is the name of the world's highest lake, located in the Andes? Lake Titicaca. What is the tendency of organisms to move in a particular direction in response to light called? Phototaxis. What is the name of the battle in which the Normans conquered England in 1066? Battle of Hastings. Which continent is the coldest and mostly covered with ice? Antarctica. What is the chemical reaction in which an acid and a base react to form water and a salt called? Neutralization reaction. In Greek mythology, which goddess of wisdom, war, and crafts venerated the owl as sacred? Athena. What do we call the rate at which an object changes from rest to motion or changes its speed? Acceleration. What physical quantity represents the distance an object travels per unit time? Speed. In ancient Egypt, what do you call the wooden or stone container used to hold a mummy? Sarcophagus. What is the phenomenon called when light strikes a surface and changes direction? Reflection. In biological classification, what rank falls between class and family? Order. What revolution in 1917 toppled the Russian Empire and established a socialist state? Russian Revolution. What are the conduits that move water from roots to leaves and transport products of photosynthesis in plants? Vascular bundles. What is the imaginary line at 0 degrees latitude that divides Earth into the northern and southern hemispheres? Equator. What do you call the phenomenon in which the temperature remains constant while a liquid boils? Latent heat. What is the law discovered by Isaac Newton stating that all objects attract each other? Law of universal gravitation. Which of Beethoven's symphonies, in 4 movements, is famously nicknamed Fate? Symphony No. 5. What was the church reform movement that began in 16th century Europe in opposition to the sale of indulgences? Protestant Reformation. What do we call the rigid rocky layer that covers Earth's surface, including the crust and the uppermost mantle? Lithosphere. Which planet in the solar system appears red and is known as the red planet? Mars. What is the process by which organisms use oxygen to break down nutrients to obtain energy? Respiration. In music, what do we call the difference in pitch between 2 notes? Interval. What is the force required to change the direction of a moving object, and what is the force directed toward the center in circular motion? Centripetal force. Which ancient Greek city-state had the most developed form of democracy? Athens. What is the phenomenon in which a substance expands in volume as its temperature increases? Thermal expansion. In volleyball, what is the attacking technique of powerfully hitting the ball into the opponent's court to score? Spike. What is the name of the world's largest tropical rainforest, located in South America? Amazon rainforest. What is the name of the minuet said to have been composed by Mozart at the age of 5? Minuet in G major. In Greek mythology, what was the sole vulnerable and fatal part of the hero Achilles? Achilles tendon. What is the phenomenon where light waves meet and reinforce or cancel each other, producing bright and dark patterns? Interference. Which planet in the solar system orbits the Sun at the highest speed? Mercury. What physical quantity is the product of a force and the perpendicular distance from the axis of rotation to the point of application? Torque. In baseball, what is it called when a pitcher throws 3 strikes to retire a batter? Strikeout. What do we call the layer of gases surrounding Earth? Atmosphere. In Greek mythology, what is the name of the 3-headed dog that guards Hades' gate in the underworld? Cerberus. In ancient Egypt, what is the monumental stone-built tomb that symbolized the pharaoh's power? Pyramid. In music notation, what do we call the 5 parallel lines used to indicate pitch? Staff. Which of Mozart's operas is a famous work set in a magical world of the night? The Magic Flute. Which subatomic particle carries a negative charge and orbits the atomic nucleus? Electron. What European religious movement began in 1517 when Martin Luther published his 95 Theses? Protestant Reformation. What is the physical quantity defined as the force applied per unit area, used for atmospheric pressure, water pressure, and the like? Pressure. What physical quantity represents the amount of thermal energy a body has, which is different from temperature? Heat. Which country declared its independence from Britain in 1776? United States. What is the name of the naval battle in 1588 in which the English Navy defeated Spain's invincible armada? Battle of the Spanish Armada. In tennis, what is it called when you return the opponent's shot before the ball bounces? Volley. In art, what do we call the liquid used to dissolve or thin paint? Solvent. In an electric circuit, what property represents the degree to which the flow of current is impeded? Electrical resistance. Which planet in the solar system appears brightest as the morning star and is similar in size to Earth? Venus. What do we call the mass of a substance per unit volume? Density. In art, what do we call the types of materials used in a painting or sculpture? Medium. In boxing, how many minutes does one round usually last? 3 minutes. What is the process by which organisms synthesize organic compounds from carbon dioxide and water using light? Photosynthesis. For giant squid exceeding 10 meters in length, how large are their eyes? Approximately 25 centimeters in diameter. Used as a pack animal in the Andes of South America and known to spit when annoyed or threatened. What is this animal? Llama. Dolphins rest only one hemisphere of the brain at a time when sleeping. Why? To maintain breathing while asleep. In microgravity, what shape do water droplets take? Spherical. Earth's circumference is about 40,000 kilometers. What is Mount Everest's elevation above sea level? (8,849 meters). Vitamin D is synthesized by sunlight. What problem can deficiency cause? Bone weakening. Fingernails are made of the same substance as hair. What is the main component? Keratin. What condition causes joint pain and skin rashes when nitrogen bubbles form in the body during a rapid ascent after diving? Decompression sickness. Fruits release ethylene as they ripen and become sweeter. What is the main reason? Starch breakdown into sugars. What principle allows a refrigerator to expel heat? Heat exchange. Dry ice is solid carbon dioxide. Why doesn't it produce water when it warms? Sublimation. What is the capital of Egypt, the country whose civilization flourished along the Nile? Cairo. What is the collective term for protons and neutrons? Nucleons. Which scale consists of 8 notes do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do? Major scale. Among the colors of visible light, which has the longest wavelength? Red. Which scientist is famous for formulating the law of universal gravitation? Isaac Newton. On which continent is the Sahara, the world's largest hot desert, located? Africa. From what year to what year did World War I last? From 1914 to 1918. If all 4 sides of a square are equal, what is the measure of each interior angle? (90 degrees). In Greek mythology, who is the supreme god and god of thunder? Zeus. What is the name of the iconic Iron Tower in Paris? Eiffel Tower. Which planet orbits just outside Earth's orbit? Mars. Which Mozart opera features the aria of the Queen of the Night? The Magic Flute. What is the part at the center of an atom composed of protons and neutrons? Atomic nucleus. In Greek mythology, which hero slew the Minotaur in the labyrinth? Theseus. In plants, what pathway carries water from the roots to the leaves? Xylem. Who was the first human to land on the Moon in 1969? Neil Armstrong. Which Dutch painter created Girl with a Pearl Earring? Johannes Vermeer. What is the beautiful light phenomenon that appears in the night sky near the Arctic and Antarctic regions? Aurora. Which planet in the Solar System has the highest temperatures and a dense carbon dioxide atmosphere? Venus. In Greek mythology, which Titan stole fire and gave it to humans? Prometheus. Which city was captured by the Ottoman Empire in 1453, leading to the fall of the Byzantine Empire? Constantinople. What is the title of George Orwell's allegorical novel that criticizes totalitarianism? Animal Farm. In golf, what is it called when a player completes a hole in one stroke under par? Birdie. About 70% of Earth's surface is covered by water. Where is most of this water found? The oceans. In art, what is the imaginary point used to set up composition where the horizon line meets the viewer's line of sight? Vanishing point. In a chemical reaction, what do you call a substance that accelerates the reaction without itself being consumed? Catalyst. From which year to which year did World War II last? From 1939 to 1945. What is the normal human body temperature in Celsius, approximately? Approximately 36.5 degrees Celsius. What is the title of one of Rembrandt's masterpieces depicting a civic guard? The Night Watch. Which planet is the smallest in the Solar System and closest to the Sun? Mercury. What is the tissue that surrounds and protects the outermost part of a plant stem? Epidermis. In music notation, which note value has two flags? 16th note. What is the method of generating electricity using the sun's energy called? Solar power generation. Who was the President of the Confederate States during the American Civil War? Jefferson Davis. What is the title of Handel's oratorio best known for its Hallelujah chorus? Messiah. What form of democracy allows citizens to decide laws and policies directly through voting or participation, without representatives? Direct democracy. What is the reaction called in which an acid and a base meet and lose their characteristic properties? Neutralization reaction. In competitive swimming, which event requires all four strokes: freestyle, backstroke, breaststroke, and butterfly? Individual medley. What substance is found in the cell nucleus and stores genetic information? DNA. What is the physical field that forms around a current-carrying conductor called? Magnetic field. What is the membrane that surrounds the outer boundary of the cell, the basic unit of life? Cell membrane. At the start of a badminton rally, what is the act of striking the shuttlecock called? Serve. What is the central structure where most of an atom's mass is concentrated? Atomic nucleus. What phenomenon causes water droplets to form spheres due to a liquid surface's tendency to contract? Surface tension. What do we call a space rock that burns and glows as it enters Earth's atmosphere, seen in the night sky? Meteor. What is the theoretical lowest temperature at which molecular motion ceases completely? Absolute zero. What do we call a cell that lacks a nuclear membrane and has DNA exposed in a nucleoid region? Prokaryotic cell. What do we call a cell that has a nucleus enclosed by a nuclear membrane? Eukaryotic cell. What blood cells contain hemoglobin to transport oxygen? Red blood cells. What principle generates reactive thrust from combusted propellant gases? Rocket propulsion. What phenomenon describes how small initial changes can have large effects on a system? Butterfly effect. What do we call material that utilizes organic matter from plants and animals as an energy source? Biomass. What do we call the changing appearances of the moon as seen from Earth? Phases of the moon. What law states that a galaxy's recession speed is proportional to its distance? Hubble's law. What phenomenon occurs when an external force at a matching frequency causes a rapid increase in amplitude? Resonance. What is the atmospheric layer that extends to about 12 kilometers and is mixed by convection? Troposphere. During the solar eclipse, what outer layer of the Sun's atmosphere is easily visible to the naked eye? Solar corona. What do we call a solution whose pH changes very little when acids or bases are added? Buffer solution. What do we call the condition in space where gravity is scarcely felt? Weightlessness. What is the force that opposes motion between two objects in contact? Friction. What are the two methods of reasoning that derive theories from facts and predict facts from theories? Inductive and deductive reasoning. What substance reduces interfacial tension between immiscible materials like water and oil? Surfactant. What energy sources, such as solar and wind, are naturally replenished? Renewable energy. What do we call galaxies outside the Milky Way that are observed from Earth? External galaxies. What do we call an organism whose genes have been altered to change its traits? GMO. What are the chemical substances that regulate plant growth and development called? Plant hormones. What phenomenon maintains biological rhythms by regulating a roughly 24-hour cycle? Circadian rhythm. What device generates electricity from the reaction of hydrogen and oxygen? Hydrogen fuel cell. What do we call the cold, nutrient-rich water mass found in the deep ocean? Deep ocean water. What fruit, originating in Mexico, is buttery and smooth? Avocado. What vegetable did ancient Egyptian laborers eat to gain strength? Garlic. What material did ancient Romans primarily use to preserve food? Salt. What role did the North Star play for early mariners? Navigation aid. In a black hole, even light cannot escape. What is the name of that boundary? Event horizon. Seeds sprout underground without light. What do they primarily use to do this? Stored nutrients. Without sunlight, what is the primary energy source for deep-sea ecosystems? Chemosynthesis. Why do rabbits re-ingest certain droppings? Nutrient absorption. Honeycombs have a hexagonal structure. What is the main reason bees build them this way? To minimize gaps. What natural phenomenon shakes the ground due to plate movements or fault activity, with strength measured on the Richter or moment magnitude scales? Earthquake. The shadow on a sundial moves as the sun's elevation changes. What is the primary underlying principle? Earth's rotation. GPS calculates position using satellite signals. What is the minimum number required? 4. What do you call a military aircraft designed to be difficult to detect by radar, minimizing radar reflections through special coatings and a faceted design? Stealth aircraft. Penguin colonies maintain body heat together. What is this behavior called? Huddling. Instead of lungs, what do insects use to breathe? Tracheae. Thanks for watching all the way through. Share your thoughts with us in the comments. Your subscription and likes really support us in making more quiz videos.